On March 7, 2025, a woman pulled into my shop in a luxury crossover with 112,000 miles on the odometer, holding the original owner's manual like it was evidence in a courtroom. She was not crying. She was not yelling. She was something worse. She was betrayed. The dealership had just handed her an estimate for $4,800 to rebuild her transmission, and she could not understand how it had failed. She had done everything right. She had changed the oil every 5,000 miles. She had kept records. She had followed the maintenance schedule to the letter, and right there in the manual, printed in clean black ink under transmission service, were the two words that had quietly cost her almost $5,000. Lifetime fluid. Today, I am exposing one of the most expensive lies still being printed in the owner's manuals across the auto industry. I will explain why lifetime transmission fluid is not what you think it is, who actually decided to call it that, and the simple service almost no dealer will recommend until it is far too late to save your transmission. I have been doing this for over 20 years, and I can tell you that no single phrase in modern automotive marketing has destroyed more transmissions than that one. Lifetime fluid. Sealed for life. Filled for the life of the transmission. It sounds reassuring. It sounds modern. It sounds like progress. But once you understand who is defining the word lifetime and who is actually paying for that definition, the whole illusion falls apart. Here is the part nobody at the dealership wants to say out loud. Lifetime does not mean the lifetime of your car. It means the lifetime of the transmission. And the manufacturer's definition of that lifetime might be much, much shorter than yours. Most drivers assume lifetime fluid means it lasts as long as they own the vehicle. That is exactly what the language is engineered to make you believe. But internally, manufacturers calculate transmission lifetime as something closer to 100,000 to 150,000 miles, sometimes less. After that point, if the transmission fails, the warranty is long gone. The original owner has often moved on to a new vehicle, and the cost of the failure lands directly on whoever happens to be driving the car at that moment. Often someone who bought it used, did everything right, and never had a chance. The woman in my shop drove a vehicle equipped with an 8-speed automatic built by ZF, the German transmission manufacturer whose units sit inside BMW, Audi, Jaguar, Land Rover, Chrysler, Ram, Dodge, and many others. ZF builds an exceptional transmission, one of the most refined gearboxes ever engineered. But here is the detail almost nobody hears. ZF recommends a fluid and filter service every 50,000 to 80,000 miles. The car makers that buy ZF transmissions then turn around and tell their customers the fluid is good for the life of the vehicle. Read that again. The company that designs and builds the transmission says service it. The company that wraps a body around it says you never have to. Both statements cannot be true. And the one that is wrong is the one printed in your manual. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is documented engineering policy. Mechanics who service European cars have known this for years. Independent transmission specialists have been warning customers about it for years. ZF has published their service recommendations openly, and yet, the moment you walk into a dealership for routine maintenance, the service advisor will glance at your records, look at your transmission, and say what they have been trained to say. It is a sealed unit. It does not need service. Lifetime fluid. Move along. So why do they say it? The answer is uncomfortable, but it is not complicated. Marketing. When a manufacturer can advertise lower scheduled maintenance costs over the first 100,000 miles, the vehicle looks cheaper to own. It moves more units off the lot. It edges out competitors in cost of ownership comparisons. And by the time the transmission begins to fail, the car is on its second or third owner, far beyond warranty, and the manufacturer has zero financial responsibility. The original owner saved a few $100s on a service. The third owner lost $5,000. That is the math. That is the strategy. That is why the words lifetime fluid still appear in manuals printed today. Now let me explain what is actually happening inside that transmission while it sits there quietly building up to a failure you will never see coming. Modern automatic transmissions are not the brutal hydraulic machines of the past. They are precision instruments running on incredibly tight tolerances. Inside, you have clutch packs no thicker than a few sheets of paper. You have solenoids opening and closing hundreds of times per minute. You have a valve body machined with passages narrower than a human hair, and all of it operates inside a bath of transmission fluid that is doing 5 jobs at once. It is lubricating moving parts. It is transferring power through the torque converter. It is cooling the entire system. It is operating the hydraulic clutches that select gears, and it is carrying away microscopic debris from normal wear. That fluid is asked to do all of that while sitting at temperatures that routinely exceed 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Under heavy load, towing, or stop-and-go traffic, it can climb past 250 degrees Fahrenheit. And every 20 degrees above normal operating temperature cuts the fluid's effective life roughly in half. By the time you reach 100,000 miles, that fluid is no longer the slick amber liquid the factory put in. It is darker, thinner, contaminated with clutch material, oxidized and saturated with moisture. The friction modifiers that allow clean shifts have broken down. The detergents that hold contaminants in suspension are exhausted, and the fluid that once cooled the transmission is now insulating it. Here is what almost no driver knows. The first sign of failing transmission fluid is not a slip. It is not a check engine light. It is not a noise. It is something much quieter. A slightly delayed shift in the morning. A tiny hesitation when you tip into the throttle. A faint shudder when the torque converter locks at highway speed. Symptoms so subtle that the average driver dismisses them or never notices them at all. The transmission computer notices. It begins to adapt. It applies more pressure to the clutches to compensate for slipping. It changes shift timing. It masks the symptoms. And while it does that, the clutches wear faster, the valve body wears faster, and the fluid degrades even more aggressively because the friction is now generating extra heat. By the time the driver finally feels something obvious, a hard shift, a flare, a noticeable slip, the damage is no longer fluid-related. The clutches are gone. The valve body bores are scored. The torque converter has overheated. And the only fix left is a rebuild or replacement that will cost between $4,000 and $8,000, depending on the vehicle. All of that catastrophic damage started with a fluid that was quietly cooked for years longer than it was ever designed to last. This is why a simple transmission fluid service at 60,000 to 80,000 miles is one of the highest return on investment maintenance items in the entire automotive world. A proper drain and refill, sometimes with a filter change, sometimes with a full fluid exchange depending on the transmission, costs a few $100s. That service, done before the fluid degrades past the point of no return, can extend the life of a modern automatic transmission by another 100,000 miles or more. I have seen it work over and over. Vehicles with 200,000, 250,000, and 300,000 miles still shifting cleanly because someone made the decision to ignore the words lifetime fluid and treat the transmission like the precision machine it actually is. Now I know what some of you are thinking. My transmission does not have a dipstick. My owner's manual says it cannot be serviced. The dealer told me it is completely sealed. Let me clear this up, because this is one of the most damaging misunderstandings in modern car ownership. A sealed transmission does not mean a permanent transmission. It means the fluid level must be checked and set in a specific way, usually through a fill plug with the fluid at a specific temperature. It is a procedure, not a barrier. Any competent independent shop with the right equipment can service a sealed transmission. The seal is not protecting the fluid from you. It is protecting the dealership's service department from competition, and it is protecting the manufacturer's lifetime fluid claim from being too obviously wrong. Even the term sealed is misleading. The transmission is sealed in the sense that it does not have a dipstick under the hood. It is not sealed in the sense that the fluid is somehow protected from the laws of chemistry. The same heat, the same oxidation, the same friction modifier breakdown happens inside that sealed unit just like any other transmission. The only difference is that the driver has no easy way to check the fluid, no easy way to see how badly it has degraded, and no easy way to know when it is time for a service. The sealed design is not a feature for the customer, it is a feature for the marketing claim. There is one more layer to all of this that almost nobody talks about, and it is the part that should make every driver pay attention. When a transmission begins to fail because of degraded fluid, the warning the computer sends out is rarely a check engine light at first. It is a stored adaptations issue. The transmission control module remembers that this particular clutch pack now requires more pressure to engage cleanly. It remembers that this particular shift needs to happen at a different revolutions per minute to feel smooth. Those adaptations are saved, and they keep stacking until the transmission is essentially running on compensation rather than design. A fluid service at that stage can actually expose the damage rather than fix it. The fresh fluid restores proper friction characteristics, but the worn clutches are still worn. The slipping becomes more obvious because the computer no longer needs to mask it. Drivers then blame the fluid change. They say the service ruined my transmission. It did not. The service revealed what was already broken. The damage happened during the 60,000 miles when the fluid should have been changed and was not. This is why timing matters more than almost any other variable. A fluid service done at 60,000 or 80,000 miles is preventive maintenance. A fluid service done at 150,000 miles on a transmission that is already slipping is a diagnostic test. Both have their place, but only one of them saves you money. The Japanese, German, and European service guidelines from the actual transmission manufacturers all agree on this. The carmaker marketing departments do not. You have to decide which one to listen to. Here is the honest summary I give every driver who walks into my shop. If your vehicle has an automatic transmission and you plan to own it past 100,000 miles, change the fluid. Change it at 60,000 miles if you tow, drive in heavy traffic, or live somewhere hot. Change it at 80,000 miles if you drive mostly highway miles in moderate climates. Change it even if your owner's manual says lifetime. Change it especially if your owner's manual says lifetime. Use the fluid specified by the transmission manufacturer, not just the cheapest fluid that meets a generic specification. Find a shop that knows your transmission, that has the right equipment for sealed units, and that does not try to talk you out of the service, and do it before symptoms appear, not after. By the time you feel a problem, the cheapest part of the repair has already passed you by. I watched that woman drive out of my shop a few hours later with a freshly serviced transmission, new fluid, a new filter, and a $340 bill instead of a $4,800 bill. The car was caught early enough. The shifts had started to feel slightly delayed in the morning, and that was the only symptom. If she had waited another 10,000 or 15,000 miles, the story ends with a rebuild and a payment plan. Instead, it ended with a smooth shifting transmission and a driver who finally understood what lifetime fluid actually meant. Your transmission is one of the most expensive components in your car. It is also one of the most preventable failures in modern automotive ownership. The marketing language built around it was not designed to protect you. It was designed to sell cars, lower advertised maintenance costs, and shift the cost of failure onto the second or third owner. You do not have to be that owner. You do not have to accept the LIE just because it is printed in your manual. If this video changed the way you think about your transmission, hit like, so more drivers see it before their fluid quietly turns into the most expensive bottle of liquid they will ever own. Subscribe if you want more videos that pull back the curtain on the maintenance lies the industry would rather keep printed. And if you have ever been told your transmission was sealed for life or filled for life or maintenance-free, drop it in the comments. Tell us the make, the model, and the mileage. Because the more drivers who understand this, the fewer $5,000 repairs get written next year. Your transmission does not have to die at 130,000 miles. It was never supposed to. It just needed someone to question the word lifetime before it was too late.